Hi everyone, Fox is here and welcome to my channel. This is my April book haul and this is going to be part 1. Hopefully there will be only 2 parts of this haul. I just happened to buy a lot of books in April. I know that I started this year with a firm decision not to buy a lot of books, but unfortunately there were quite a few sales in April and plus quite a few new releases that I really wanted to get. That's why I managed to acquire a lot of books. However, I decided not to split this video into parts based on the genre or say like young adult or adult, so based on the audience. No, I just decided to split it into parts and go with like whatever book I pick up and then just haul it, because I happen to buy a lot of books in the same genre. So when I started to divide them into parts, I realized that one pile was twice bigger than the other one, so it just didn't make sense to split it based on genre. So yeah, welcome to my part 1 and just let's get on with it. And the first book that I have here is a non-fiction book which I'm currently reading, and this is The Life-Changing Magic of Tidying Up, The Japanese Art of Decluttering and Organizing by Marie Kondo. You must probably know or at least heard of Marie Kondo or Kondo-Mari method of organizing and decluttering and especially folding clothes, which I find extremely fascinating to watch on YouTube. So yeah, it's a lovely, very short book. I'm somewhere in the middle of it. It's just a book about how to organize your things, how to declutter your life. I'm not a fan of non-fiction books or help or self-help or something like this, but I watched a lot of videos online and I listened to a lot of people who were talking about this method of decluttering life, and I just really wanted to read this book. Another book that I have here is also non-fiction, and that is a little book of Hygge, The Danish Way to Live Well by Mick Wiking. And I also heard a lot about this book, and it's one of the probably most look how pretty it is. It's one of the most Instagrammable books ever. Really pretty, and I've been seeing it a lot on Instagram, YouTube, as well as Indigo bookstores. This is where I got it from, and I just decided to pick it up because it's oh my god, of course I had to open it on the page with food, but I feel as if this book will be a very cute book on full of tips on mindfulness and how to relax and enjoy your life and enjoy the moment, which I really want to do. And this is another book that I hope to be reading just bits of, just to kind of pick myself up if needed. And I am also very curious what this whole thing is about, because I see a lot of pictures online and I see a lot of people talking about it, but until I actually personally myself read this book, I will not be able to fully understand or grasp the concept. So I decided to pick this one up. Next, I have quite unexpectedly a graphic novel, and this is volume number 3 of the full or complete Elfquest by Wendy Pini and Richard Pini, and I love Elfquest. This is probably the only comic series that I started reading when I was a teenager and never finished, and then discovered it online years later, and then they started releasing all of the comics as huge volumes. So I do have volume 1 and 2. I read them I think a year ago, and this is the volume number 3 that I believe came out late last year, because there is also Final Quest, which is like the final series. But this one, I always wanted to have the complete series, and I've been basically, I was ecstatic the moment when I learned that the whole comic series is coming out. And unfortunately this part is black and white. Well, there are some parts which are in color, which is amazing, but mostly this whole complete collection is just black and white, which makes me a bit sad. But still, I'm super excited, and I cannot wait to get all parts. I'm not sure how many volumes there will be. I know that there will be 4th volume, I think later this year or maybe next year. So I cannot wait to get all of them and kind of do the whole reread again. I might as well start it soon, but I got it actually from Book Outlet. I was so surprised because every single volume is pretty expensive. I cannot really give you Oh yeah, here we go. So in Canadian dollars, that's $34, which is like, look at this. It's not even the thickest volume, and it's pretty expensive. So I'm so glad that I got it from Book Outlet. I just saw the copy there. I was like, yeah, I'm ordering it. I don't care. I just need it in my life because this is my favorite comic series. And next, I have two plays by the same author, and that is Nicholas Billon. One is A Butcher, and another one is The Elephant Son. I'm not sure if I hauled them last month or not because I bought them at the very beginning of April. I watched this play at the end of March, beginning of April, and I do have a full review of the play, like as it was on stage, and I'm going to provide the link to it down below. And I really wanted to read the play for reasons that I mentioned in my review because it was so interestingly done from the language perspective, and also so I got really into this playwright's writing, so I wanted to read something else by him, and this is The Elephant Son. I have not read it yet, but it's supposed to be also pretty dark and pretty heart-wrenching. I cannot wait to do that. I'm not sure when I will get to it, but God, I have such a huge TBR, you would not even believe it. I must be somewhere around 500 books now. Maybe more, maybe 1,000. I try not to think about it too much. Next book that I have is also nonfiction, and that is Victoria by A.N. Wilson. This is about Queen Victoria, and I've been meaning, like, I've really been wanting to read more about Queen Victoria, and I even wanted to buy this book from Book Outlet, but I never did, and then I saw it on sale at Indigo. I just never realized this book was so thick, but I cannot wait to read it. Hopefully one day I'll get to it. Maybe I'll just read bits of it because I'm very fascinated by the history of Queen Victoria, since she played quite a big role in history of Canada. So I want to read this one, and I was just so lucky to get it at such a good price. As you can see, it's $10, but it was also on sale, so minus 30%. It was an amazing price for such a big book. Next, I have a graphic novel that I also got from Book Outlet, and that is The Gigantic Beard That Was Evil by Stephen Collins. I read this book, I got it from the library, read it, absolutely loved it, and I decided to pick my own copy when I saw it available on Book Outlet. It's such a weird little story, but it's also very, I want to say heart-wrenching, but it's so true and so reflective of the nature of society. It's just, I loved it, so I hope I will read it again sometime soon. But yeah, I'll provide a link down below. I should have my review somewhere, so I'll provide it down below. Next, I have a copy of the book that I had on hold at the library for at least 6 months, and then I just gave up because I realized that there are so many people who wanted to read it that I probably will never get to it, so I went and bought my own copy at Book Outlet, and that was A Little Life by Hanya Yanagihara. It was just getting ridiculous because I couldn't get either a physical copy or ebook, and it was driving me insane. And this copy was pretty cheap on Book Outlet, so I picked it up because it's a paperback. It's a very small font though. I'm pretty sure everyone knows what this book is about, but what I'm attracted to in this case is that that was a Man Booker's Prize finalist and also the topic of this book. But it's gonna be a pretty serious read. I'm not sure I'll get to it this month, probably not even in June, but definitely sometime this summer. Next, I have a copy of the book that I was absolutely sure that I already owned, but turned out that I didn't, and that is The Curious Incident of the Dog at the Nighttime by Mark Haddon. That was the play that I saw at National Theatre, I think it was 2013, or maybe 2014, and I absolutely loved that play. I watched it at least twice, and I remember reading the book, but I was so sure that I had my own copy. Turned out, nope, I was wrong. So I decided to rectify it. Now I have it, and I cannot wait to read it again. I'm actually quite blanking out on the fact whether I read it to the very end or if I only read the script. But this is the actual book that the play was based on, so I'm very happy to have my own copy. Oh my god, this is not even half. I think it's a 1/4 or maybe 1/5 of all books. I'm so screwed. Next, I have two books by the same author, and I'm so happy to say that I met Margaret Atwood. I never thought in my life that I would be able to say the words I met Margaret Atwood. I knew that Margaret Atwood is a Canadian author, and I knew that at some point I would probably be able to meet her because I also live in the same town as she does. However, since I just, like, when I read The Handmaid's Tale, I just never thought it would actually happen. And now I have two books by her which are signed and are signed for me, and So very quick story. There was an event at Indigo the beginning of April where we could meet Margaret Atwood, and she was talking about The Handmaid's Tale as it was turned into a TV series. And I have two books. So I have The Handmaid's Tale with, this is a TV show tie-in edition, and I also have Oryx and Crake by Margaret Atwood. I actually owned The Handmaid's Tale before. I'm not sure where my copy is, but it was a very old copy. One of the very few first, I think it was vintage. I think it was vintage edition. So, but this one I got from Indigo, and this one I also got from Indigo, and I got both of them signed, which is super exciting. I actually wrote a blog post about me meeting Margaret Atwood and this whole Q&A session. I will provide the link down below if this blog post is up. If not, please check later. I don't know, hopefully it's up by now, by the time you're watching this. But I'm just super excited because Margaret Atwood is she's amazing. She's an amazing author. She wrote an amazing dystopian society novel, The Handmaid's Tale, which is very relevant nowadays time. So I cannot wait to reread it and also read this one because I've never read it. And next, I have a new April release, and that is Edge of the Abyss by Emily Skrutsky. This is a sequel to The Abyss Surrounds Us, which I read last year and thoroughly enjoyed. I did have some problems with characterization and some gaps in the plot. However, I've been waiting for the sequel for quite a while. It's not that thick, as you can tell, but I'm hoping to read it sometime soon. It is a YA fantasy, I want to say, or maybe, yeah, more like fantasy, sci-fi, sea creatures, monsters, and yeah, if you watched Pacific Rim, the movie, you'll probably love this one, so definitely check this one out. Next, I have also an April release, I believe, or maybe spring release. This is a YA book, but I know nothing about it. It is Railhead by Philip Reeve, and honestly know nothing about it. I just feel that it's something like a sci-fi. It is a sci-fi young adult novel. I'm not sure if it's a debut or not, but I picked it up because it just piqued my interest, and the quality of the paper is pretty good, so I hope to get to it sometime this summer. Next, I have a copy of Geek Arella by Ashley Poston, and this is a YA retelling in like for a geek person. It's like a Cinderella, but actually like geek nerd type of thing. I don't know much about it. I just know that I got a preview of this book back in winter when I went to see Lovely Ladies from the Secret Loves of Geek Girls. That was a collection of short stories, a graphic novel / graphic novel type of thing. And I met some lovely ladies there, and they also had a preview of this book, and it kind of piqued my interest, so I decided to pick up my own copy. This is the final copy, and it's hardbound, and it just should be a fun read. Next, I have two books for the same author, both which I'm so ecstatic to have, and that is books by Becky Albertalli. First, this is Upside of Unrequited and Simon vs. Homo Sapiens Agenda. And this was one of my favorite books a year ago, and this is a new release by Becky. Cannot wait to read it. I was hoping to get to it before I go to BookCon, but personally, I doubted that I will have time for it, which makes me really sad. But on the other hand, I might as well, you know, kind of save it and savor it later instead of rushing through it. But I'm just so excited to have these two books because they're super cute. Super cute. I love them. Just look at this. I don't know, I love Simon. Simon is, it's such a wonderful pick-me-up YA novel. So hopefully Upside of Unrequited will be the same. Next, I have a copy of the book that I've been trying to get a hold of for God knows how long, and sometimes you just have to wait for the right moment to get the book. Sounds weird, but I found that sometimes you just need to be patient to get a copy, and this is For Today I'm a Boy by Kim Fu. And this is a YA I believe transgender story, or maybe intersex, not sure, but I've been meaning to read this book for a while. Couldn't find the copy that I liked in bookstores, couldn't find it online, but finally I got it from Indigo. I actually specifically went to a specific store because the website said that there were 5 copies of this book. I found only one, and I spent probably like 20 minutes going through bargain section. Oh man, that was quite a hunt, but I'm so glad that I got this book. It's fairly short, so hopefully I'll get through it rather quickly, and I'm really curious about this book because, first of all, it was recommended to me, secondly, it's a debut novel, and third, it's also written by the person of color, and I'm really interested, really interested in this book, and I think the author is also Canadian. So, yep. Next, I have a copy of Gone by Michael Grant, and this is a first book, I believe, in a trilogy, YA dystopian type of story. I didn't really know much about it, but it's been recommended to me multiple times. It's definitely not a new book, so probably a lot of you have already read it. Let me know down below, but no spoilers, what you thought about this book. And I just decided to pick my own copy. I saw it on sale on Book Outlet, and here we go. Next, I have a copy of Dorothy Must Die by Danielle Page, and this is book number 1 in a fantasy retelling of Wizard of Oz. This is also book number 1 in the series that's been around for quite some time, so most probably you have already seen these books and you know what they're about. I have never read these books, neither by this author nor anything from the series, and finally decided to pick it up. I am quite in a mood, and I've been in a mood for the past few months for some certain YA fantasy retellings, and hopefully this one will not disappoint. I read Wizard of Oz when I was a kid. I read several books in the series, and I always liked them, but I'm not sure how it will be with a retelling because, as you know, retellings can be good and can be pretty bad. But hopefully this one is a good one. Next, I have a copy of the book that I also thought that I owned, but turned out I didn't. I don't know what's wrong with me, but sometimes I just forget which books I own. Probably that's also the reason because some of my books are at my parents' place. So, and this is The Word for World is Forest by Ursula Le Guin, and she is like a classic writer of sci-fi. She's like a master. She's one of those 70s, 80s authors of sci-fi that probably everyone should be looking up to when they write sci-fi novels. As always, Ursula writes about society, about violence, about social norms, and I need to read this book. I really need to. And the last but definitely not least in this part of the book haul is going to be Attachments by Rainbow Rowell. I loved Fangirl, and I loved Carry On, and I also absolutely loved Kindred Spirits, but all of those books were from young adult section. This one is an adult novel. It also has a magical realism or fantasy element to it. You probably know what it's about, but basically it's about person who oversees the conversations of 2 women via email, and I'm very curious about it. Hopefully it will not disappoint because I think that Rainbow Rowell is turning to be one of my favorite YA authors, and I'm very curious to see how she writes a more adult story. This is it for this part of the book haul, and I'll see you in part 2. Bye! I'm not sure if you noticed any difference in audio quality, but I did purchase an external microphone which is now attached to my camera. I'm still trying to film with as little noise as possible, which is almost never possible for me. As you can hear in the background, there's another ambulance because I live next to a hospital. So that's just something that we'll have to work with. I'm not sure that ordering a venti was a smart choice today, but I needed coffee badly. That's been around for quite a while.